This is a good situation bottom left, isn't it? Obviously, there's a ton of chips already out there, dead money. And we've got the ladies. There's any raise we make there is really going to look extra strong, so it's just hard to... I mean, it just always is going to look strong when we raise there, so... But I think the sizing is probably okay. The reason why I say it looks strong is just because it's such a big amount of our stack, but also it just puts in half of this guy's stack who's just flattered behind in the cutoff. And, well, SPR2, Queens on a King 9-8 board. What do you do? What do you do? Sorry, SPR is 1.3-ish. Effective stack size is ours, 46k. 35k already in there. I don't see any way we can fold this. If he's got King Jack or something, it's just bad luck. Having said that, I mean, the SPR now is even less than 1 once he bets, but it's just a bad spot. If he's got a king, we've only got 2 outs, so it's horrible. But I mean, what are you going to do? But you're going to see that sort of thing a lot, I think, with these guys, where he just calls with like Ace 10, and we actually had Ace King, so I'm surprised he didn't get it in pre. But there's not too much we can do about that. I mean, even if we bet and he shoves, it's still kind of a hard spot because he could have diamonds, he could be spazzing out with a 9, he could have 10s and just think he has the best hand or something, without having more information on our opponent, a more clear read. So that's just annoying because it was a final table. It's kind of hard to put him on that hand because he didn't get it in pre. So that's why. Because I think a lot of the times players will just jam Ace King there pre-flop. And we have queens, so it's a little bit harder for him to have King Queen. That's why you heard me mention King Jack as maybe something that he might have. I couldn't remember that hand, by the way. So top right raised it up, and after the guy limped. A lot of limping from small blind, and you're going to see that a lot from, you know, these at the lower stakes. Just a lot of limping in general. And obviously we hit a really nice flop. And it's just a matter of trying to get value. But the important thing is to be thinking about what bet sizing do we want to use. So any ace is probably calling, but if we don't want to bet too big, because we might be able to get 10s to call as well. Things like that. Weaker pairs as well. But we couldn't that time. And another nice hand bottom right here with the kings. You can see bottom left is the $11 rebuy I've brought in. And that's just the nature of MTT players. Tourneys will be coming in and out. A lot of volume. So I've gone ahead and 3-bet, and we've got 2 callers. And Peshman has flattered out of position. And, you know, automatically you just think, you know, it sounds harsh, but automatically you just think fish. You know, because, I mean, a lot of the time he's just flatting with hands that he shouldn't be. I mean, out of position flatting with hands is just bad. Unless if he's got aces and he's trapped us, I mean, I take it all back. Well, he's got 10s, I mean, so it's just a tough spot for him, but I think that he's still better off. Well, what's the depth? 14 versus 17. You know, it's a post-play recording. Otherwise, I'd be looking for the unlucky there bottom left ran into that hand there. I mean, it's post-flop recording, so I'm kind of thinking I want to see the hand replayer, but obviously can't. To see his stack size. But I get the feeling he should have just got it in pre, probably. Probably better than just calling. The problem with calling is, what does he do when the flop comes, you know, ace XX, king XX, queen XX, jack XX? Does he still get it in? Because a lot of times I think there's a potential for him to make a huge mistake where he folds, you know. Like the board comes ace XX, and we've actually 3-bet light with like queen 8 suited, and we c-bet. Does he call with 10s on an ace XX after a guy's 3-bet? You know, he just puts himself in really tough spots. I think tens, especially against an aggressive player, 3-betting on the button in that spot, tens is a pretty nice 4-bet. And I think that's the path that he would have been better off going down, but he opted to just flat call. And then obviously for him, when he gets the low board and he's got an overpair, he's not going to be folding. So that was good for us though with the kings. So pocket twos in the top left here in this $5 rebuyout on. And about M12.5. So it would have been interesting to see what I would have done there if Hugh Street on the button would have 3-bet. We do clash with Hugh Street quite a bit. That's why I bring him up. He will be on the final table with us later. And we'll see some interesting play. Well, there's a bit of run good. Look at the Jackie Chan there. Bottom left. So it's 9,000 to call here with the fours. It's pretty borderline. Do I like it? I think I prefer a fold there, to be honest, just. I think I prefer a fold. I mean, I think we were getting around 12.5 to 13 to 1 when you factor in the fact that it's 9 to call. We have 93 behind. And there was already our bet out there and the antes and blinds and stuff. So just going off our stack, we were getting around 10.5, but there was a little bit extra out there. We're probably getting about 12 to 1, I think. Which, you know, normally when you're speculating like that, you prefer to get closer to 15 to 1, just to make it more positive EV from a mathematical point of view. That's the sort of rule of thumb, is around 15 to 1. Obviously, you're around 7.5 to 1 to flop a set. But you've got to remember, when you flop a set, you don't always get paid off. Sometimes the guy just folds, or sometimes you get a cooler and he flopped a bigger set or gets there with a flush and so forth. And so you want to have that buffer of around 15 to 1. And I just think in that spot, it was close, but I just feel like we're probably making a slightly losing play long term with the fours by calling. But having said that, the interesting thing about it is it only cost us 9,000 to call, but oh, look at this flop. But if we do double up, it's really significant. But losing 1M is not, if that makes sense. And that's just the nature of tournaments. Sometimes you've just got to put yourself in a position to run good or a position to get chips. Yeah, I don't mind the donk bet here, actually. Don't mind it, but I think just checking would have been better. Just because pocket 1994 is probably always going all in. And then maybe we can just make a small mini raise like we're isolating with a wide range. But having said that, just building the pot is always kind of good against these guys. Just because they're likely to pay you off, you know, with marginal hands. And just get value, especially on that board. It's not dangerous, but you know, any heart or queen or 10 and so forth could potentially be bad. Or ace for that matter. But I think if I played that hand again... Yeah, see, the problem was the player behind stack size was so small, is that we always have to raise him, and then just the fact that we're raising kind of looks strong. So I don't mind the donk bet. So bottom right, queen 9, and he's M2, the jammer. This is an interesting spot. Like, I think we probably, against good players, have to call with any 2 almost, because of the pot odds. Mathematically, you can justify calling really wide here. But if you're against a player that doesn't jam wide, against a little bit of a tighter player, you can actually fold some weaker hands. I'm talking about when a player's only M2, Once they get lower than that, you can just always call. And in this spot here, I'm fairly sure that I'll do the right thing, which is to call in this spot, just because we're getting almost 2-1, which means we only need around 33% equity. And you've got to remember, this guy's short, so he's not likely to have, even though he's UTG, I mean, he's just not likely to have the nuts. He's likely to have King 9 and still have us dominated. Oh, but there's a queen on the river. Lovely lady came to save us. But, you know, King 9 off is fine, and it's just an indication of, you know, what I was saying is that obviously he's going to have a wider range. So Queen 9 suited's likely to have more equity against the times that he rolls King 2 and, you know, 6-8 suited and stuff. And he didn't have a lot of time, M2 UTG. I mean, if he folds that, he's probably going to be all in next hand as the big blind anyway. But so bottom left is going to be an easy all in, and top left, I don't really, wow. I was going to say, I don't really think we can get away from this hand. And I don't know about turn. Maybe we could have actually, well, yeah. It's just hard in the blind. I mean, in the dark, I should say, with no information on this player at all, just to know if he's the sort of guy that just gets it all in with ace-2 or not. When he bets flop and then fires again turn, it looks like he's got a big ace. I think we actually can fold here, to be honest. It's kind of a bit nasty because there's 70,000 out there and it's only 20 to call. But, I mean, when you're thinking about hands that he's going to play this way, I mean, I just don't often think he's going to roll like, you know, Jack 9 that he turned into a bluff, or like 6-7, or just the old crazy 8-9 suited that just randomly barreled it off thinking he's, you know, Tom Dwan or something. Yeah, I mean, I think we can actually probably fold. It just seems a bit nasty because there's just so much in there. But we don't really beat much. And the turn, yeah. I mean, the thing about the turn is like King Jack and Queen 10 are just some hands that he guess he could have that get there. There's just a few more hands that get there. But if he does have, it's also kind of a scare card for him, you know. So if he does have a smaller ace, he might slow down and things like that. So when he bets flop, bets turn, I mean, it just looks strong. And then when he goes all in river, I mean, he's only got 20,000 left, I guess, so he might even do that with, you know, if he happened to have trips or 2 pair, he might just say, well, if you've got a 10, you've got a straight, but I'm not folding, so I'll just bet and go all in, which is fine as well. Yeah, in that situation where, if you're ever in a situation where you're going to be calling anyway because your hand's pretty strong, unless you have reason to believe that your opponent has a ton of bluffs that he's going to make, when you're talking about committing the rest of your stack, usually it's better just to be the better. Just to bet and try and get value if you're calling anyway. And so, yeah, just what I mean is if he had 2 pair or trips, I mean, he's always better just to bet the flop, the river, I should say, and just hope that we call. If we've got a 10 and he checks and we go all in, I mean, can he really fold? If he's got like a set or 2 pair, probably not. So you might as well just bet, hope we make a light call. Because otherwise he checks and we check back with a lot of hands that he can get value from. So, yeah, top left, I mean, easy call and fairly shortish all in from early, and we had the jacks. Interesting that the big blind called and then folded flop. Again, it seemed like it was a bit of a messy play from that player to be doing that. Bottom right, we've got the king queen off, pretty standard open, nice depth of stack in that. And that's why these 2 rebuy white add-ons are great, and the rebuys. Good depth of stack, more of a skill edge. And the M4 jams, his stats tell us that he's fairly loose, so I just not going to fold here. And even still, I don't think we can fold just because the pot is just too big now. But the button player, he's likely to have us crushed a lot here. I imagine it'll be like the guy who's jammed first has got like eights, and the guy who's jammed all in behind has got ace queen, something like that. But on our best days, they'll have like eights and nines or something, and where our cards are live, I just don't think we can fold because they're so short. They're only M4. And top right's a tough one as well, isn't it? Top right. This is a little bit scary, this 3-bet. Have a look at that for a bit of run good bottom right. That is what I'm talking about. It's going to be easy to make 42k. Look at that. That is the way we want to be doing it. Just getting lucky. Makes it so much easier. Yeah, top right, I mean, we're pretty short when we opened, and the guys 3-bet were fairly early position, and it's pretty close. I would have preferred a shove, I think. But if he's a good player... If he's a good player, I like a shove, but if he's not, if he's just a random, I don't mind a fold because it looks very strong. But I would actually be 3-betting in that spot from big blind there. I actually 3-bet there a lot light as a semi-bluff. So because you saw he got tremendous leverage. You know, we had to commit or fold, and I went with the fold that time, which is kind of tight. Top left. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's okay. And we hold. Even if the player behind us had, nines or something and called, I mean, we've still got 10 outs, right? So 8 straight outs and we can hit sets. And the pot's already quite big, and the guy who's just jammed into us is likely to have a hand that we crush. So I check bottom right, just checking this guy's stats. It's actually not too bad. Well, no, I was going to say it's not too bad a 3-betting spot, but yeah, it's close. But I think just folding, ace-4 suited, rather than... I mean, you could definitely argue for calling, I guess, because of the stack depth, but out of position, the ace-4 is probably a little bit nasty. Probably prefer to 4-bet it or fold it, but I think just folding is... essentially, I've only opened as a steal. The old UTG steal. And I think raising with suited aces to, as part of your widening group of hands, you don't want to just be raising UTG with the nuts all the time, so... Certainly suited aces are a selection of hands that you can have as part of your raising range from early position, along with a few suited connectors and so forth and that sort of thing. And at this stack depth especially, it's fine. I think the other reason why I raise there is just because we get good leverage against the players behind. And that's always a good situation to be in, where you've got the bigger stacks to your left and the shorter stacks behind them. Because anytime you get 3-bet, the guys are committed to the shorter stacks behind, which often causes players to tighten up their 3-betting ranges a little bit, which means you get less bluffy 3-bets. And so, for example, in that situation with the ace-4 suited, if the player thinking now, Andra, or the player behind him, Zhengzhu, I don't know, my Chinese is not very good, and art fart play all jam, he probably can't fold. And so that often means players are more likely to have a more value in their 3-bets rather than semi-bluffs. You hear me refer to pre-flop light 3-bets as semi-bluffs, because essentially that's what they are, because they're not for value if they're light, but they're not pure bluffs because any hand can flop the nuts. So they're really semi-bluffs. Top left, M. Well, it's a difficult spot, isn't it? Because he's around M9. So I think a small 3-bet here is probably good. Yeah, I mean, I could probably have gone even smaller, but yeah, it's probably okay. I mean, this guy's stats say that he's loose. We only have 47 hands, but he's been in a lot of pots, and he's been active from what we can see. So we get good leverage. Ace blocker, and he just folds. It'd be pretty tough if he jams. I guess we'd have to fold, but it's just kind of annoying because aggressive players might jam actually some hands that we beat there, like King Jack and Ace 5 and stuff. They might just think, oh, you're 3-betting me. I'm just going to jam. And that's that thing about those sort of marginal hands there. I'd almost prefer to have Ace Deuce off. That's an easier fold rather than Ace 7 suited, just because it looks prettier. Makes it a little bit harder to fold when you get 4-bet. That's why sometimes I actually prefer to have a worse hand and be 3-betting, because you know the decision after that's going to be easier. Have the old 7 Deuce off or something. But yeah, that's I think the 3-bet there was, I would say it's kind of standard. I guess you got a kind of wide opener. We see him opening again here, and still top left. I'm talking about player dealer pro 777. That is a nice stack size to be opening with, though, that he's got. A little bit harder for players to 3-bet him. We got away with it. He was just deep enough for us to have a 3-bet folding range. As he gets shallower, he gets to a point where when we 3-bet, we can't fold because the pot odds are so... just make such a compelling argument for calling and force us mathematically to call off. I mean, if he had have been M, for example, 6 or 5 or 6 and we 3-bet and then he jams, I mean, we probably can't fold at that point because mathematics will probably tell us that he's so short it's not enough more chips to call to fold. So we can just call because of the pot odds. And that's the thing that especially a lot of good players will use to their advantage once they get to that stack depth. Sort of M7 and below, they start opening up more liberally, willy-nilly, because they know that a lot of players behind feel they can't really 3-bet them with a bluff range because they've committed. So they have to just 3-bet for value. You could 3-bet perhaps a little bit lighter for value if you suspected your opponent was opening, had more of a stealing frequency, and then just call off anyway. But it's certainly a dynamic that you need to be aware of at the table, is the changes in stack sizes, and specifically when it comes to stealing and re-stealing. Obviously a key part of the game. Talking quite generally, hopefully, that a lot of people, anyone listening to this can follow along, I hope. If you are completely lost, then... Well, if you're completely lost, I guess the first thing you'd want to do is maybe go on to YouTube and just watch a few of the basic poker nerve videos that I have. I am actually planning on making a sort of a beginner's session, series again on the Poker Nerve VIP channel. So hopefully I'll be able to get something together soon. But if you're completely lost, I always recommend going for the Poker Nerve Road to Success course. And it'll have you thinking like a pro in as fast a time as possible. And if you're only a tiny bit lost, then fire away questions. If you're lost at all, anyone lost, fire questions away in the chat, of course, in the comments, I should say, and I'll do my best to respond. So I just popped that tournament in there then. I missed it. What was that all about? What was happening there? Just popped it in. So top right, yeah, I mean, getting short now. I wish we had have taken the pocket 8s before, to be honest. It was kind of a suspicious raise when the guy 3-bet us. It kind of looked strong, but this is the thing that happens in tournaments. Have you ever had that where you didn't take an opportunity and then, you know, an hour later you were thinking back like, damn, I should have taken that hand. Why did I fold? Or, you know, I should have taken a stand earlier when I had the chance. That is just the nature of MTTs. You can see we're 2 of 33 bottom right, so that's good. We've got a healthy stack in that 2 rebuy 1 add-on. It's going to propel us to the final table. And we've got a healthy stack, of course, top left in that $5 triple eight poker rebuy there. And not so healthy on the other two. And easy jam here. Queen 4 suited. Only around M sort of 3.5, 4. Queen 4 suited, you can jam up to M8 mathematically before it's a losing play. How does he have us dominated? And he flops the world and turns the universe and rivers the entire galaxy. Actually, I think the universe and the galaxy should have been swapped. But that's unfortunate finish there. Ran into a hand, he had us dominated, he held on. So another 1 bites the dust. And that's it, guys, for this session. So back to battle in part 2. And like I said, any questions, fire them away into the comments there. And look forward to getting into this next part now. I'm going to review it straight away.